What an amazing comeback. If you're a Real Madrid hater, this is not a good day for you. At halftime, it looked like our defeat was inevitable, but these players are way too good. Vinny is definitely going to win the Ballon d'Or next week without a question because he deserves it. I don't want to hear anything about Rodri or any other player. There's no question that the best player in the world right now is Vinny. And if you give him too much space and time on the ball, you're dead. Every time the game opens up and it's towards the end of the game where he has a little bit more space, you know that's where he's going to do damage. And one of the things that Vinny doesn't get enough credit for is his fitness, because you see how strong and how good of a runner he is later in the game, after the 80th minute when everyone's exhausted. A lot of these right backs, they might do well against Vinny in the first 15-20 minutes of the game, but he wears you out throughout the game. There's just no question about his quality, his commitment to the team, how he fights. In moments where it gets difficult, Vinny steps up in a big way, and that's what makes him the best player in the world right now. A couple things I want to talk about in this video. First thing is really about Thibaut Courtois. He had a save around the 81st, 82nd minute that really helped us get over the finishing line. He deserves a lot more credit, and in my opinion, he even deserves a raise because he's one of the most essential players on that team. If not, he's maybe the second or third most important player in that team. To me, Valverde still is the number one player on Real Madrid that I think is the MVP of the squad, the heart and soul of our team. But Thibaut Courtois comes up with big saves, big moments in every single game. It's unfortunate that that's the case, where he's being exposed to opportunities from the opposition. But let's give the guy credit. He deserves so much praise because when you talk about the legendary goalkeepers of the world, you're talking about Buffon, you're talking about Van der Sar. You have to put Thibaut Courtois in the conversation of greatest goalkeepers in the history of the game. A couple of things I also want to talk about. Number one was the pressing in the first half. We clearly tried to press a little bit in the first half, but it wasn't really that effective because it was each individual player trying to press the ball or trying to press somebody, but it wasn't synchronized. And that's something that we struggled with historically under Carlo Ancelotti. So I think what he's tried to do is have the players position themselves higher up the pitch, but not press the ball too hard. Because if you press the ball, you use a lot of energy that tires you out, for the second half. And man, I wish that was something we could fix. Because we saw in the second half, when we had more control and we were more dominant and we were pressing higher in the second half, how good of a team we are. I see no reason why we can't do that to teams and dominate them. But it seems a lot of the times we're vulnerable. We're barely getting over the finishing line with some really high quality players. These are the best players in the world in their positions. You're talking about Valverde. You're talking about Vinnie and Mbappe. These guys, they're the best players in the world in their positions. And yet, a lot of times we're getting over the finishing line by winning by 1 goal margin oftentimes. But obviously that's not the case today. The other thing I want to talk about is the Jude Bellingham body language. I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Jude Bellingham. I mean, he had that chance in the first half where the ball comes into the box and he heads it straight to the keeper. I feel like last season, Jude Bellingham buries that chance. But he's low on confidence. He hasn't scored in La Liga so far this season. He just needs that first goal to go in. He needs to start building some momentum. So it's a little frustrating to see him doing so much tracking and running and not being in areas where he's able to affect the game more. So I hope that Carlo Ancelotti will revisit his position on the pitch. I know he wants him providing more defensive work because we lost Danny Carvajal, and his defensive intensity as a right back needs to be overcome because Lucas Vazquez, you can't expect him to do more of the defensive work. You'd rather have more support for Lucas Vazquez and have him play higher up the pitch, especially at home at the Bernabeu. But to be fair, Dortmund kind of made it easy for us in that second half. They went to a back five and they sat so deep and they invited pressure. And you can't really do that against us. But will another side make that same mistake? I don't think so. But I do think when we play Barcelona this weekend, their style really favors us because they do like to press very high and they are susceptible to counterattacks. So you see the kind of form that Vinny is in. And if you give Vinny and Mbappe that kind of space, and Rodrigo, which, by the way, I hope Rodrigo is fit because it looks like he suffered some sort of hamstring injury on his right leg, and I sincerely hope he's doing well because he was another unsung hero today. Rodrigo generally this season has played really well, and he deserves more credit because he's been reliable. And it seems like he's the first guy to sit on the bench when everybody's healthy, which is a little bit unfair. So again, Rodrigo, a guy that all Madridistas, we all love him and we embrace him and we want to make sure that he gets the love and acknowledgement he deserves. We don't want to see him leave and go to another European club because he can essentially walk into the starting lineup of any club in Europe. No questions asked. I'll just wrap it up really talking about two things. The first is the Lucas Vazquez crosses. A few times he made overlapping runs. He would invert in possession, and then Rodrigo would be on the outside, and then they would interchange, and Lucas Vazquez would make that run down the line and look to find somebody inside the box. I just felt like he could have improved some of his crossing. If he can work on that, and those crosses into the box are more decisive and more, they find the feet of Mbappe, they find somebody in the box, we can convert some of those chances a little bit more. So just something to work on. And the last thing I'll talk about is just that Kylian Mbappe doesn't look that comfortable still. I'm looking at a few moments of brilliance from Mbappe, but just his general positioning and his ability to find spaces in the box and outside the box so far hasn't been that great. Even when he's come off the pitch and Vinnie has played more centrally, you just see that Vinnie is like a lot more comfortable. He knows where to pick up the ball. He's having more touches on the ball. Mbappe still feels like he's not that comfortable. He plays a little nervous. He's like a little quieter. So I'd like to see him really step up and try to demand the ball more, get on the end of the ball, and try to take the game from the scruff of the neck. This was an important win. We needed to gain some momentum, especially in this manner where we had our backs to the wall and then we come back in a huge way and end up winning by 5 goals. Vinny gets a hat-trick. He's going to have that confidence behind him. Hopefully next week he gets presented as the Ballon d'Or. It's momentum. It's a momentum game. And if we are able to get 3 points against Barcelona, then there's a little bit more enthusiasm in the team. So this is an important month for us. We overcame one of our tests. Now we've got Barcelona. AC Milan is coming up also. Not easy games. So let's hope the guys can get over the finishing line. I have a lot of really exciting videos that I'm working on that you guys will want to stay tuned to. So make sure you guys subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.